right, friends, we have such a wonderful topic today. I'm going to sound all gushy, but I'm so excited because we're talking about love. Love.
Love.
It
Yeah,
doesn't get
love is
better
in the
than
air. Right. You know,
that.
and what a better place than Las Vegas where I am to explore love, and that sort of leads us to our next guest, which I'm thrilled about because she has so far done more than 5,000 weddings. She's a wedding officiant here in Las Vegas, and she's got a lot of stories, as you can
I
imagine.
want to know what her closet looks like. How many bridesmaids dresses does she have? I have so many follow-up questions.
Yeah, there's so much to get to in her post signing off life, but just to give us some background, she had a whole different life in 2010, and her and her husband, decided, okay, we need to kind of change directions, and so it was kind of a brave, courageous adventure, and it's led to a tremendous amount of success. And so, without further ado, I want to welcome everyone to meet Maria Romano. Maria, hello.
Hello,
Hello.
hello. How are you both doing today?
Oh, we're so excited to get to talk to you.
Oh, you know what? Who doesn't want to talk about love, right? I mean, it's a great topic.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're immersed in the culture of love in a very professional and profound way.
You know, it's interesting you say that, Todd, because we all find our passion, right? And sometimes we find it sooner or it changes. And I have to tell you, I didn't find my passion until my latter part of my 50s, where this really catapulted for me. I mean, no, I'm not a millionaire but I'm doing something that I love. And I think that's the key thing is when you love it is really when you can enjoy it and put forth your best.
Yeah, and getting there, kind of what signing off, what we're all about is part of the adventure is a road that's always not so smooth and easy. It takes sometimes time to figure that out, right?
You know what? It's so true. We think we're going to be an overnight success, and it's really putting in the work to get to where you are. And I just had a conversation with somebody about that today. I said, I put in 12, 13 years now doing this, and it's finally I'm getting to the point. Finally, it's like everything just seems to have fallen into place. But again, there's no magic pill. I wish there
Yeah,
was. It's like,
yeah,
wouldn't you love to be able to get up in the morning and have the type of body physique that you want, right? Eat the right foods all the time. No, it takes some work. It definitely does.
You're saying it's
Sometimes
going to take
on a
13 years? Just
13
13
years.
years.
Yeah. So I was going to say sometimes I have to eat the donut once in a while, even though I'm not supposed to.
right.
I fully support that.
Yeah. The 13-year overnight success story, right? As it goes. So take us back. We're gonna get obviously to all the different weddings that you've been an officiant as, and all the different interesting, lovely stories you have that you really can only have here in Las Vegas. The wedding capital of the universe. But sort of take us back to 2010. You and your husband, your late husband Frank, had a car rental business at the airport, which was you had for some time. It was successful, but then you guys started putting your heads together and sort of looking at the next chapter of your lives, and you said, you know what, we've got to change direction, and that was obviously a huge monumental task to take on.
It was, as I go back and I think about it, we were successful in the rent a car industry. And then there came a point where it's just like a small TV station, right? Or Blockbusters versus Netflix. Look who wound up, taking over. And when you have those type of resources behind you, the larger companies were definitely coming in, swooping in, and they became the Walmart of the industry. So if I had to, look at it that way. So it was really time for Frank and I we could not compete with, their buying power, their pricing power, their attraction for talent. And that's the key thing as well. You need to have a great team around you. So at that point, we decided, okay, it was time for us to sell. And And Frank had a heart transplant. So let's back up. He had a heart transplant in 1997. He was very fortunate to have become a heart transplant recipient that same year. And we all know that in order for you to receive a donor heart, somebody has to pass away. Now that was a it was a big deal in our lives, and it was a big deal for him. And he never, in his life, thought he would live 15 years post transplant. So we always lived on borrowed time, and love was very important in our lives, very, very important. And then in 2010, when we had the opportunity to sell to Hertz, we did. And I always knew that I love being in the hospitality industry in some way. I did not ever want to go back into rent-a-car, although I did work with them for a while as a consultant. That was part of my contract. But I didn't want anything that big anymore. We had 110 employees. We did over 18 million a year in car rental revenue alone. But again, it wasn't that easy. We just talked about there's no magic pill when you turn around to start to do something in life. So at that time, I was looking around and I went to a friend's wedding ceremony over at the Las Vegas Country Club. So if anybody's been around, the Las Vegas Country Club is behind what was known as the Old International, the whole Old Hilton, where Elvis used to perform as well. And a friend of mine got married, and she had a woman that was officiating. And I said, I think I want to do that. So at that point in time, I figured, I wanted to be part of the industry. Frank, we knew was on borrowed time. Okay. And I needed something to keep me busy. I mean, that's true. And that's
take
how
us
I
back.
started.
So you got this sort of light goes on, right? Where you say you're at this wedding and you say, oh, this is, I'm attracted to this. I'm not quite sure why. But what were some of the biggest fears and concerns you had in making that transition? Because it's like, as you said, it's not easy. There's work, there's a financial reality, there's the mental and emotional aspect to it all.
Well, I think I started soul searching. I wanted to do something that I thought I was going to enjoy. I wanted to do something where it was not salesy. I mean, and everything we do is salesy. Let's not kid each other. We're always selling ourselves, but it was different because there's a need for people to get married, to have vow renewals. And I also wanted something that I would enjoy. I would walk into a situation. I didn't want to become a wedding planner. I love wedding planners, and that is a job that unto its own, that is not easy, has a lot of moving parts.
Oh man, yeah.
So I give them a lot of credit for that. We all watched The Wedding Planner, right? And J-Lo made it look great, but it really isn't that easy.
I mean, she got Matthew McConaughey at the end, so
absolutely, he's adorable.
Isn't that the way it always goes, right?
But the challenge is, first of all, the licensing here. That's what I was starting to say. In Clark County, they wanted you to be an affiliate with a religious organization. Now that's changed since then, because not everybody wants to be married by somebody in the religious sector. But I had to find a online company that would ordain me in order for the county to approve my license. I had to put on my heels. I had to go to the different chapels and market myself.
And what was some of the initial reactions as you're sort of trying to, because this is an established industry, and I think as anyone can understand, like trying to literally, knock those doors down in an established industry where connections already have been made and fostered, and you're trying to say, hey, move over.
Pick me.
Yeah, Maria's coming to town.
Yeah, you probably both can relate to this where you are, no matter where you are. But it's still a small town in a lot of ways. And it takes time for people to build that know, like, and trust. And that's the key thing. So when I went around, actually, I recognized I was in a male-dominated industry. I left a male-dominated industry. And then I'm jumping into a male-dominated industry.
Aren't they all? Dang it, Todd. Aren't they all?
So Yasmeen,
we do have it a lot easier. There's no question about it. No question.
Yeah, and you know what? I still to this day sometimes will say, Maria, we assigned you to a wedding, or we they had me down on a schedule, and I put in my schedule and said, they really thought you were Mario, not Maria. I still get that, which is That's okay. Hey, listen, you want somebody to have the best experience. So who am I? If they feel that that is going to make a difference, that's fine. So when I went out, that was what
Interesting.
I was up against. Well, we already have ministers, and and the ministers, they don't really want to share because I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I had to figure out, okay, I had to come up with the ceremony. I thought maybe I could shadow somebody or I can find somebody to help me or mentor. I'd pay them. No. And that is because, again, people did not want the competition. There was a lot of competition. Obviously, it's changed so much. Even the licensing requirements have changed. But when I started with the marketing, it took me time. And you know how I broke in?
Hmm.
Because we are in Las Vegas and we're pretty open and less judgmental. I went back to the chapels and I said, okay, I will do commitment ceremonies. Because somebody said, go back and tell them you'll do commitment ceremonies for same gender, because a lot of your staunch ministers won't do that. And I appreciate that. That's how I broke in. The Venetian and the Flamingo, that's how I started with them. They're still one of my two clients that I do have. But I got to tell you, it wasn't easy.
And this was before, marriage in many states, same-sex marriage had been legalized.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what? It's interesting because when I started doing that, and I would perform wedding ceremonies, for example, at the Venetian. So they have the gondola wedding, which they emulate that you're in Venice. So you get on this beautiful white gondola with the gondolier singing. And with that particular wedding ceremony, there's a turnaround inside where they want you to be completed with your ceremony. And then, of course, the gondoliers serenade you. And usually when you get to that turnaround, you throw your hands in the air and you say, come on, everybody, help me. I now pronounce you partners in life or whatever. And, you'd be surprised at the people looking that were like, oh my God, there's two men. Oh my God, there's two. And then nowadays, we have come so far and we are
So far.
less judgmental.
It's so funny because we look at the outside media, and by that I mean movies and the way that the Las Vegas wedding is typically portrayed is it's 2 a.m. They've been drinking and gambling, and they say let's get married. So how close to that is reality? I'm sure it's not very close, but have you had also some kind of brushes with like, okay, these people are partying and they're just gonna roll into a marriage and go for it?
That
Well,
Britney Spears
first
72-hour, this feels like a
thing,
good decision.
Yeah.
actually, they do. They have a 30-day rule in the country of Australia, just so that you know. When you get your license, you can't get married for 30 days. Very interesting concept. But in Las Vegas, and that is one of the obstacles that the county clerk, who actually oversees a large part of the wedding industry and the licensing, is trying very hard. We have that perception of the hangover, which we all know. And that was a great movie. It was a great
Yeah,
movie.
yes.
But it's interesting because when I complete ceremonies, I'll have people say, this was a lot better than I expected. Because one of my accounts is a chapel of flowers. And you can only be really at one, because when you dedicate a couple of days a week at a chapel, they usually have a very high volume. But I'm particular because the one chapel I work out of, we're not a 5-minute ceremony. And that's what you'll see in some chapel. And that works. That's a great business model for some. They believe in giving the couple the full experience as best as we can, although we are on a time slot. And you're always up against that. But I have to tell you, with 420 is a big day. Go back to it, right?
Right.
Anybody that's friendly.
That's the weed holiday, right?
Weed holiday.
Yeah.
So you're constantly, people don't realize maybe they should just do edibles instead, because when they walk in, come on, anybody listening, if you're going to smoke some way before the ceremony. Make sure your clothes, you Febreze your clothes. It smells like skunk. So I see that. I do see, definitely bridal parties where they're a little bit inebriated. And actually, we have an obligation as an officiant, not the bridal party, but the couple, that if we feel there's an impairment, then we have the right not to perform the ceremony at that time.
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we did. And yes. And I think it's very interesting. And I never did this before in my life until a few weeks ago. I had a situation. It wasn't necessarily an impairment. It was a groom that was extremely upset that his bride, who was trying to get ready with 4 little kids also, that she was getting ready. for she forgot the marriage license, and that happens. So you'd have to go back. We can either do the ceremony and then they can come back and then we pronounce them legally. Well, he was furious. He was furious. And I said, I don't even know now if I want to get married, if I want to go back and get the license. He was yelling at her. And I'm thinking,
Wow.
so
Oh, honey, you are in for a rude awakening if you think that's the worst thing that's going to happen in marriage.
They're getting ready. The music starts and I can hear him still yelling at her. And I turned around. I said, I went video. We had three. I go like this, cut. I walked down. I said to him, listen, I said, I know in your heart, you two probably love each other quite a bit. I said, but I refuse to marry you at this time.
Yes.
Because this is not the right frame of mind that you should be in. And he looked at me. I said, now, if you want to postpone it by an hour, I know that your parents aren't here yet. You're concerned. You think you can. I said, I will do that ceremony, but I refused. He came back later on. He apologized because you know what he says? I really was overreacted. He says, I love this woman and I want to marry her. And wait, and what the best part? They met fishing. Now, how many people do you know that get hot-tempered are fishermen?
This is my first, I suppose. It's such a passive, like boring kind of, a thing to do. Just sit there and just put the line in the water and wait.
So it's just an interesting part of the industry that we do see. And again, you want to enjoy a ceremony. So those that come that are a little too high or a little too drunk, I'm not saying that they can't be married, but they're not really they're not really present. I mean, it's your wedding day. You want to be fully present. Then party after you have the ceremony. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, there are plenty of places in Vegas to party afterwards for sure.
Well, Maria, it feels like you're so happy doing this and this is what you were always meant to do. But obviously that was not the case for a good portion of your career. Looking back now, is there anything that you wish you would have known or done if it was start sooner or pick at that itch at a certain point? Or what do you wish you knew before you started?
Well, I have to tell you, as I think back and look back at my life, and I'm in my 60s, so I make no bones about that. And I spent close to almost 40 years in the car rental industry. Did I love it? No, I didn't love it, but I made the best of it. And I think that's the key, and learned as much as I could. But as I look back, I wish I would have found my passion a lot sooner, but it wasn't meant to be at that time. It was probably meant to be at this time in my life. And I think that's the key thing we need to recognize. We all hear about people who are in your life for a season, for a reason, depending upon how long. And I really think that also pertains to your professional career, because sometimes your professional career might not be something that you're in love with after a while, but it sets you up for the next step. And that's what I would definitely say. So a finish line in one career is a starting line for something else.
And also an excuse to buy dresses. So let's get down to I've been waiting to ask you this. What does your closet look like? Do you have a bunch of bridesmaids dresses? Do you go to personal weddings? I'm sorry. I've gone off on a tangent. I'm very excited.
Actually, I did go to one last year at Sunset Castle. It was another officiant who's on the board, the Chamber of Commerce board, the wedding chamber board with me. That was the last wedding I actually went to. So no, I don't know. People don't, not that they don't invite me. They usually know I'm pretty busy on weekends. And my stage in life, a lot of my friends are already married or they're dating. So I always tell them, when you decide to get married, I'm your girl. That's what I tell them. I'm your girl. And I too want to be a bride again. Yasmeen, I've been a widow for 10, almost 11 years, and I'm on that journey to finding love. I'll admit it.
Who knows? Maybe you could, someone watching this podcast.
Yes, we're manifesting it for you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And your late husband, Frank, and you said that, he was on borrowed time after the transplant, but he was around when you went through this transition and what was sort of his words of encouragement and watching you make this? I have to imagine he was really proud of the way you were able to kind of start this career for yourself.
Well, he didn't get to see me follow it through to where I am today. However, he was very instrumental. And actually, when I started my company, it was called Love Knots. We add the true to it. But Frank is the one that came up with the name. He said, I started looking. He says, and I came up with love knots because love knots are the knots that the sailors used to tie many, many, many centuries ago on the sails so that actually their loved ones so that they would come home safely. So that's where that came from. He was very instrumental. Warren Buffett said the greatest skill you can have is being able to communicate. And that also is speaking as well, which both of you know. So I don't need to tell you anything. Both of you, you're good at it.
Well, I feel like this we can pay you for advertising. That was some good advertising for us, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, she's a promoter of HQ. I love it, Maria. And looking back, what was some of the best advice that you could remember that you received during that transition for you, and what would be some of the best advice you could pass along to others who are debating or going through a major transition in their lives?
Well, transitions are always scary, downright scary when you really think about it, because you're making a change and you don't know. We're all fearful when we take that first step. And, as I look back, as far as any advice, one thing I will say that, one of the things my late husband taught me is you really need to take that first step. He said, and also lean on other people. Think about if you have young children, right? Do you stop them from learning how to walk? Absolutely not. But you're there to give them encouragement. So I always try to find the best people that knew a little bit more than me when I made this transition and to give me the encouragement. And sometimes, and then I realized at that point is I needed to be my best advocate and I needed to dig into myself and actually, continue to become confident. Because one of the things is somebody can tell you to be confident, but you don't really kind of feel it in your belly, right? It's just something. So it's a matter of building up that confidence. And even in my 50s, building up that confidence again. And then as I would look back, anybody looking to emerge into something different, the best advice I can give you is if you don't try, you don't know. And you don't. And you don't want to be reflecting on your life at a certain stage. And I'm not saying a certain stage where you're transitioning and passing, but you could be at a stage in your life where something happens and it's life changing and you don't have all the motor skills that you used to have. And you don't want to be sitting there saying, I really should have done that. I really should have taken that leap. And sometimes your family isn't always going to be behind everything you do as well. So you have to listen to that inner voice because that inner voice knows the right thing for you every step of the way.
Isn't that true? Right? I mean, that rings true to me.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's no denying it once you hear it and you keep hearing it. And that's the difference, right? Between like it being maybe a passing fad and then realizing, no, this is a path I've got to follow. And I know for me, it was like the regret of not trying something else far outweighed the fear of signing off.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree with you. And you have to give it a shot.
Yeah.
It's great advice. All right. So Maria, we always end on a streaming note, a TV, a content. We want to know what people are watching. What are you streaming? What are you downloading? Are you all about the romantic comedy? Am I typecasting you? I apologize.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And this is funny, Maria, because Yasmeen and I came up with this because we want to save relationships. So you start the relationships, and then we feel like there's so many arguments and differences in relationships when they want to stream something. So we're here to keep those relationships together, and this is part of our service.
We're all working together on the same.
So normally, interesting you say that because normally I don't watch TV, but yesterday I did because I had a little a toe procedure, a little surgery yesterday. I still showed up today, giving my best. Okay, painful last night.
I have
Didn't
no
fall
doubt about your
asleep.
toughness.
Yes. Oh, yes. Didn't fall asleep till 3 because I finished the Netflix series, The Diplomat. Diplomat. Did anybody watch that?
It's so funny you say that. Literally last night, I was scrolling through Netflix and I thought that it looked interesting, but I don't know anything about it. So I didn't start it. Are you signing off on it?
I am signing off. Watch it. The writing, the acting, incredible and so current day. That's all I'm going to say.
Who is? Do you know some of the stars? I think it kind of rings a bell. I think I've
Carrie
seen
Fisher. Is that right? Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Russell.
Carrie Russell. Carrie Russell. Carrie Fisher is Star Wars.
I'm not too sure of the other actors. One of the actors, the black gentleman, I had seen him in Frank and Gracie, or Frankie and Gracie, that series.
Oh, yeah.
Is it the son?
Yes, he played the son. He is incredible.
Oh, he's so good on Frank and Gracie.
His acting.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He's incredible. So watch that. Great. I don't know how many episodes I binge watched. So, and after I sign off, this girl's going to take a little snooze.
Yeah, good for you. It's well earned. Yeah, and rest that toe, would you please?
The couples of Las Vegas need you on your feet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, Maria Romano of trueloveknots.com. You could look her up. You know, who knows? If you need a wedding officiant here in Las Vegas, you're looking at her. More than 5,000 weddings now since 2010, a staple part of this community for a long time. And we certainly appreciate you sharing some of your time with us today. And it's been a great conversation.
I'm honored to be part of both of your conversation. Thank you so much.
Oh, change is gonna do me good.